How low are we going? We're going low, below the skirt with Tamara. Hi, my name is Tamara Green. I am your pelvic physical therapist, and I help women overcome uncontrolled bladders, return to that pleasurable sex, manage pregnancy symptoms so you can become a postpartum champion. So my Virginia, we're always here together, my girl. I will be discussing a tool for pelvic floor strengthening. So before, and a lot of times I'm always talking about how you can strengthen your pelvic floor, the importance of strengthening your pelvic floor, and ways you can utilize that pelvic floor in functional ways in the bedroom or on the wash machine or on the couch, whatever your heart desires. But the biggest thing is knowing what are some other avenues. And a client was in the office, asking me, he's like, and I actually did it through virtual for her. And she was like, hey, what are some other ways that I can strengthen my pelvic floor? And I can teach, and she just maybe wanted another tool. So I have a tool here that's used for pelvic floor strengthening. Now, with that being said, how do we do that? The first disclosure is also knowing that if you're having painful sex, you don't want to focus on pelvic floor strengthening, because what's happening is you may have some tight muscles in the pelvic floor, and if they're too tight, it's going to cause discomfort. If the pelvic floor here, if the muscles are too tight, you don't want to strengthen muscles that are already tight. You need to work on relaxing them. Now, if you said, hey, I've been working on pelvic floor strengthening, I just don't quite know how to do them, but I need another avenue. Again, there's different tools out there, and I use that in the office as other ways to help get the point across. There's many ways. They say skin a cat. There's many ways you can eat a slice of carrot cake. Obviously, y'all know I like carrot cake. But with inserting, you would insert this tool into the vaginal canal. Now, if Virginia is laying on her back and the vaginal canal and this tool is inserted here, what happens? And as I've discussed before, but just to kind of reiterate, when you are strengthening the pelvic floor, you're working on lifting the muscles. Now, if I'm lifting, we're engaging, we're helping decrease leakage so you won't laugh, cough, and sneeze. So think about it. If someone's laying on a bench press and they're going to bench press and lift that muscle up, or if I'm going to raise the roof, right, what happens? We're working on lifting the muscles up. Lifting is strengthening. If we're coming down, that is stretching. So with the tool that's inserted into the vaginal canal here, what happens? If the pelvic floor is lifting, if we're raising the roof, or if we're doing some type of bench press, what happens? Putting it in, when you engage it, will tilt it. So sometimes, yes, when we sometimes need that visual cue. And this is what's so important, because this will allow you to visually cue, are you engaging the pelvic floor? Many times I'm engaging my pelvic floor right now, but what's happening? You don't see anything moving. A lot of us think, okay, we're doing Kegels, we're working on just tightening the muscle, but when we're tightening it, we're moving. There's nothing going on. There's no butt motion, there's no twerking, nothing is going on there. The only thing you should be feeling is the pelvic floor engaging, and we should not see what's going on. Now, a lot of us, or what has been told, and that's very common when people come into the office, they'll say, hey, I know how to really tighten my pelvic floor. But they're tightening it, but the component is the lifting. So you're just not tightening, you're tightening and lifting. So with this tool, when it's inserted and you're lying on your back and this is inserted into you, what happens? When you pull that pelvic floor strong enough, you will then see a tilt of this. So that tilt, and that's how I help women grade how strong is the pelvic floor engaging. Because when they lift that pelvic floor, how low can this fishing pole tilt? Like, you got some good bait, right? How much can you make this thing nod? The more you can make this nod, that's showing you how strong the pelvic floor is really being engaged. Now, if you said, hey, I'm tightening my pelvic floor, but instead of you working on pushing up the muscles to help you from leaking or doing any of those things, if you're doing it the wrong way and you're actually bearing down, in this situation, it's going to pull up, which is wrong. So look at the mechanics. If I am pushing down, if I'm bearing down, it's going to want to come this way. If I am pulling up, it's going to want to come this way. So it's just another tool to be able to show how you can properly engage your pelvic floor. And as I said before, if you're someone that's having any form of pain with intercourse, nothing should be painful during sex. Now, if you are dry or something like that, then it's going to be uncomfortable. But if you're either like you have plenty of lubrication or anything like that, or you're just someone who's a slippery slide, you're wet, guess what? And you're not having pain, good. But if you are having pain and you're fully hydrated down there, then you should not have pain at all. Now, so you can take this same information once you really understand, hey, I am doing my pelvic floor strengthening, I'm engaging it when I'm doing exercises, your regular exercise routine or whatnot you may be doing. You may say, how can I make this into a functional task? Well, I'm glad you asked, because Tamara's here to give you that answer below the skirt to live your best life. What you can do is that same tactic of engaging the pelvic floor, you can use that during intercourse. So your partner, I'll give you the props because you're doing the work, but you can thank me later on that. So in that motion of pulling out, in that sense, during that point, you should be using those muscles to engage. So if something is coming out, if you're engaging that pelvic floor to resist it from trying to come out, I know you should be getting your groove on and being all in the moment, but I'm just showing this is another way that you can work on strengthening. It doesn't matter what position you may be in, but it's another form of strengthening. So if you are someone that say, hey, I am struggling with knowing I'm not having painful intercourse, or I'm not having painful with any type of penetration, tampon, toy, whatever, but I'm having some form of leakage. And some women may not be having leakage. You may say, I'm not having leakage, but I want to be able to strengthen the pelvic floor, because again, the pelvic floor, once it's really engaged how it should be, your core muscles are going to react. The more stability you have in the foundation of your house, which is your Virginia, a part of your pelvic floor, the more stabilization you have, the more you will protect yourself from injury, and the more you'll just have stability when you do different things. But strengthening the pelvic floor does not have to be for someone, you may not be having leakage. Again, you need to work on pelvic floor strengthening. You may say, hey, I am thinking about or anticipating on wanting to have children. You need to be working your pelvic floor before pregnancy. You may have already got knocked up, right? Well, if that's the case, you need to be strengthening your pelvic floor. You may have already delivered that baby, or you may have had a rainbow situation and you still had some component of pregnancy. You need to strengthen your pelvic floor. You may be, is this hitting some of y'all as I'm speaking to you? You may be postpartum, had the baby, or you may be 10 years later and you're starting to notice, you know what, I can't control my bladder. Again, you need to work on pelvic floor strengthening. And if you're someone that says, hey, I'm not leaking, you need to work on strengthening. You don't just, when you exercise, you strengthen your body. You cannot neglect downstairs. You cannot neglect below the skirt. You cannot neglect your Virginia. So this is a tool that you can use to give you that cue. You may be someone that needs that visual component versus some of my clients, they just need physical components. So whatever it may be, engage that pelvic floor. That tool is a tool, and there's many other tools out there. Some of you may say, hey, I want a tool like that. I want a tool that I can see butterflies fly in there to know how high or strong my pelvic floor engaged. There's so much technology out there, and there's tools for many different things for you to get what is needed. So if you're needing some direction, reach out to me. You can go to info@belowtheskirtwithtamara.com, info@belowtheskirtwithtamara.com if you're needing some guidance. So if you were having issues of properly doing Kegels, Kegels is not just squeezing. Kegels is squeezing and lift. Squeeze and lift. Oh, can you do it with me? Squeeze and lift. That's the component of it. So, with that being said, work on pelvic floor strengthening. And if you need that tool, I'm here to help. So thank you for tuning in with Below the Skirt with Tamara. And go live your best life below the skirt.